Welcome to the introduction here of spiritual kinesiology, SK we call it, and we have an online certification course that we'll be describing too, an overview of it. And I'm Philip Montrose with my wonderful wife and partner, Jane.
Hi, everybody. Wonderful to be here.
Yeah, we've been doing this for many years, and we'll explain how we develop spiritual kinesiology in the process too as part of our journey. You're in store today in this webinar for probably an eye-opening way to heal and grow spiritually. This webinar is for people who want to grow spiritually and learn a practical, holistic way to do so. And today we're going to cover this overview of spiritual kinesiology. The certification course that we actually began in 2004 offering the course. We had already developed the process and the multiple complementary techniques we call getting through techniques to help you go even deeper with this profound spiritual kinesiology approach. One of the ways that people really enjoy this course is, as this testimonial says by Jonathan Claveau, is it's deep, it's transforming, it's an enlightening experience, and it has brought many important healings in the area of my life that I had not yet had a chance to see. And now, after all of these practices with myself and others, I feel different. My thought patterns have a calm, different look, which is kind of a sense of the presence of the soul, which is used directly in the spiritual kinesiology technique. And make sure you stay till the end of the webinar here, because we're going to do a demo of spiritual kinesiology, which should be quite exciting and revealing. Now, it's understandable that at times we all get stuck and need help, and that's where spiritual kinesiology can be a lifesaver to help you heal and grow. Our background, just in case you're wondering who we are, we're recognized as innovators in the field of holistic healing and coaching. We published over 15 books and manuals. We have an extensive website, gettingthrough.org. We're co-directors of a nonprofit organization, Awakenings Institute, and the creator of this technique we're sharing today, spiritual kinesiology. So Jane, why don't we tell them what spiritual kinesiology is, might be a suspense now, and what you can do with it.
Yeah, and it's to me very exciting. It's a complete healing system, and you could say essentially it took about 10 years. It was 10 years in the making from the time we started exploring these techniques. And so because of that, it didn't come to us all at once. We started our journey into healing with Reiki, as many people do, spiritual healing, holistic hypnotherapy, kinesiology, and more. And we began teaching these techniques in the early 1990s, which it was and is for us a great learning experience. And obviously we've been in the field a while. And I think one of the things that that had to do with it is that we were always persistent. As Philip mentioned, we were innovators, learning more, always wanting to find faster, deeper, and more effective techniques, and also to find solutions that would connect more deeply with the truth of who we are, really, as spiritual beings. And we also, working with a number of students and clients, and when we started writing, also people who were reading our books, we wanted to find solutions to help all of those people when they get stuck, just like sometimes we would get stuck. So after some years in the field, the thing that really stood out for us was pinpointing the hidden sources of blocks that we couldn't easily identify. Sometimes, and probably everybody's had those kinds of experiences. Maybe you have experience with healing, maybe not. It doesn't matter. It still can work. But for us, even with a lot of experience in the field, there would be times, like I know for myself, I would say, well, gee, I'm just not feeling right. And I know something is blocked, but I can't tell in any way what it is. And I found that really frustrating. So that was the impetus. And we found the solution in this system that combines kinesiology, which I mentioned before we studied, and fast, effective healing technique, which we kind of innovated based on NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, that accesses spiritual energy for healing. And the really wonderful thing about it is that it's generally pretty fast and easy to do, and just about anybody can use it. So from that perspective, it really feels to me like it's a highlight in our life's work. We've been using it now. We really developed it or finished developing it in the late 1990s. In fact, I tell people sometimes when we developed this healing technique that we're going to demonstrate today, it's almost like sleight of hand. It looks so simple and odd that you think, well, this couldn't possibly work. So we developed it, and then it was probably a year before we ever dared to show it to anybody. But we were using it ourselves, and we were thinking, this really works. And so we tried it out, and it really does. Now, 20 years later, we have really a proof, the kind of proof in the pudding type evidence that it is highly effective. And along with the healing system, it also has a map of the spiritual journey and helps people to go through specific stages. We were always interested in spiritual growth, and it helps people to go through the stages more quickly and easily. It has a variety of checklists along with it, and Philip will be talking about that more. But this is what you can do with it is, you'll love it, I think, if you want to have the keys to deep spiritual healing. And I would say if you're interested in healing, it's a good idea to want the keys to deep spiritual healing, because spiritual healing is the deepest level of healing. And that's something, it seems abstract, but if you look at the holistic model, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and energetically, and some of you probably know, it's in that order. So the spiritual level is the deepest and most complete. When you heal from the spiritual level, you're healing everything within it. Whereas if you're healing from the physical level, as in allopathic kind of medicine right now, you're only affecting the physical. You're leaving everything else in place. So it's great for that. It's great if you want to learn how to accelerate your personal and spiritual development so you can live more joyfully and so that you can create a more fulfilling life, I think. It also has the keys that we learned, and this one thing itself, for us at least, it took us years to find a way that we could open and connect with our own inner truth, which is kind of that higher truth that can flow through any one of us. We found it's actually much simpler than most people realize. We'll talk more about that too. And with that, when you connect with your truth, you can discover more about your potential and purpose, and really create the life you were born to live, which is the ultimate goal.
Right.
So there's just so much there.
There is. Yeah, a quick story just to illustrate. One time I was presenting at a conference, and I was demonstrating spiritual kinesiology, which has to do with muscle testing, which is optional, by the way, as we'll explain, is one part of it. But the essence is this reframing and anchoring. Those are NLP terms, some ways of looking at the world differently from your inner truth, as Jane was saying, from your soul. So anyways, it's a time for a demonstration in a conference, like we're going to be demonstrating in a few minutes on this webinar. And the lady comes up, and, I don't know what she has. And she said, hey, I have been estranged from used to be my best friend 7 years ago. We were in a spiritual organization, a business we decided to do together. It turns out in this business, she was embezzling funds from me, and that, ended the business and of course ended a relationship. And here's an interesting and in this story. She was a meditator. She daily meditated every day rather. And so I'm thinking, well, okay, here's someone who's meditating every day for 7 years, still has this burning issue of this, what she considers a betrayal. You know, am I in a few minutes in this demo going to be able to help her? Now, as Jane and I said, this works remarkably well, and it works because you're connecting with the soul energy, a higher energy. You're, meaning me, I'm not doing it. I'm not changing her. I'm not convincing her. I don't have a magic pill or bullet, but I do have this reframing and anchoring, this spiritual kinesiology process, and I'll say, well, you know, give it a try. I kind of trust guidance, like, okay, I guess this is meant to help her. I don't know. So we do the process. It's very brief, as you'll see. And it goes in rounds. You can do a few rounds if needed. And so she has this very intense anger toward her friend and sense of betrayal. And after one round, now one round, as you'll see, of reframing and anchoring is about 5 minutes. I ask her, you know, how are you doing, you know, with this issue? Just reevaluating is what you do. And she said, wow, you know, I'm just feeling kind of very peaceful about it now. I said, really? And she goes, is there anything there? No, she said, I'm just fine now. And she, you know, are you able to forgive your friend? Yeah, I'm fine, I'm ready to let it go. I said, really? You know, I'm kind of testing, you know, you're sure, you know, I'm not trying to bring it back or anything. And, you know, we just did another round just to kind of make it go deeper. And she felt very calm and she'd released the hurt and was clear on it. And that was it. Now that sounds like an unbelievable story. And it is, except we experience things like this all the time. And people who do the reframing and anchoring and learning it, and that's why we have an easy to follow course that we're giving you an overview today. People who learn this also experience in themselves remarkable results for healing and spiritual growth and help others to do the same.
Right.
Did you want to add anything there?
No, it continues to delight me that this kind of thing is possible.
Yeah, right. Okay, so that takes us to some of the, we'll divide it in the top 2 reasons people get certified using the spiritual kinesiology online certification course in this case. Well, one is the quality of training. People really have, since we've offered this for 15, 16 years now, people continually say it really works well. It's clear, it's professional, it's easy to follow. So in the quality of it, it pinpoints issues quickly. Like I was telling you in the story with the lady with the betrayal issue, getting to the core of the problem. And the results are quite lasting. Why? Why might they be so lasting? You know, when you know it in your bones or even deeper in your soul, you know it. And it tends to be lasting and sustaining and deep. You grow in competence and confidence. You can see doing something like this and learning how to heal from your soul and know your own soul and become intimate with it, which the process is really more than a process. It's a whole spiritual journey in itself. You become more competent and confident. You're going to grow personally. And if a lot of people would get a training like this to help them professionally too in different ways to use it as a tool. And you will access innovative, versatile and practical approach. This is very versatile. It's going to give you a lot of opportunities will open up. The second reason people take this training is it's actually very easy to access it online. It's very affordable too, by the way. It's easy to learn. You can learn from home, no costly travel. Go at your own rate. Go as deep as you wish to go. Some people really want to go and learn this every bit of it. Some people want to learn the basics, and that's good, or wherever. And you get the lifetime access to all the materials. Jane, did you want to add anything to that?
No, sounds good to me.
So it's a unique learning opportunity. So here's that's kind of why people do it. Now here's what you're going to learn. Here's why you might want to follow up on this.
Right, and it is amazing. First, you'll learn how to do, kinesiology step by step and apply it to a wide range of situations. And I would say also just to realize that I guess it is spiritual kinesiology. It does take practice, by the way, to really master the techniques, but it's worth it. You learn how to connect deeply with your soul for healing guidance, which I mentioned before, and really with a holistic approach. I think one of the things that is so wonderful is everything in us is connected and everything has meaning. And so when you actually start to understand how, even the body and the energy system all relates, some things just make a lot of sense. And just to let you know, really the key to that is connecting with the truth in your heart and with the love that you hold in your heart. That energy connects you with that kind of soulful space where you can receive guidance. So just as a simple kind of an overview of it. And then, of course, how to use muscle testing itself. And as I mentioned, above, it does take some practice. Usually, you have to develop confidence with it. But muscle testing is a great tool for this and for many other things too.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't know about it, it's often like people will test the strength of an arm to find out if something is strong or weak or strengthens or weakens the system. And there are other ways to do it too. We have methods we teach where you can do it with your hands and many different ways. So, and then there are ways to add a variety of other techniques to it that that go even deeper. GTT, as we call them, are getting through techniques, which we developed also with our work with EFT. And anyone who does EFT, by the way, who's listening, you can use EFT interchangeably with the healing technique that we developed for this program too. And then, as I suggested earlier too, we have within the system are a variety of checklists that you can use to identify hidden issues. And we'll be going into those a little bit in a while here because they relate specifically also to videos that you'll receive along with the course that provide demonstrations. And then in addition to that, you learn how to integrate conflicting parts of yourself, which it might sound odd at first, but the idea is we're not all one. It's interesting, we call ourselves I, but we're actually, there are different parts of us. Some parts of ourselves are confident, some parts are not, some are fearful, some are not. And so what we want to do is to be able to integrate all of these different parts and bring them back actually into the wholeness of the soul. And that's really, you might say, in a way, the essence of the spiritual journey is bringing all of these different aspects of the self back into our wholeness. Another one, which it's a going deeper into healing, is understanding archetypes. They're universal patterns that influence all of us. Generally, they're unconscious. And one example of them actually is polarities, which is mentioned here too as a good example. Like the body has a right and left side, right? And it has right and left brain, with the left brain being the more rational, out there brain, and the right brain being more the intuitive and actually feminine side. And we have a feminine and masculine side of the body, and we have a feminine and masculine side of the self. So regardless of our gender, we have masculine and feminine attributes. And it's really critical for each of us that they're functioning together. Because if you understand how they function, the feminine really is the part of us that dreams and creates. And so we want to be creating from a soulful place. And a strong feminine is important to have that happen. And then the masculine is the part that follows through and has the will to carry out the plans that the feminine comes up with. Well, if either one of them is weak, then we can't manifest well. If we don't have that creative energy that tells us, what the right direction is for us, we can waste a lot of time, with activity going nowhere. Or if we have the creative energy, but we don't have the will to follow through, we can have a lot of plans and then nothing ever happens. So that's just an example of how powerful it is with masculine and feminine. The spiritual and earthly is similar. So we have a spiritual part that's kind of out there, the higher part. And so a lot of people describe sometimes spiritual people as woo-woo because they'll be kind of up there without bringing things down to earth. So we need to both be able to go up and get that higher perspective, and we need to bring it down to earth. So the essence of our approach really is to bring spirit fully into form.
Right.
You can address any issue with this system, including physical things. We can't promise that they're going to heal. At the very least, usually with physical ailments, the person who's experiencing it will have a greater understanding of what's happening, which is also helpful. And often there are physical changes that occur. I've had complete healings personally with using the healing system.
Yeah, we're going to share how we use the spiritual kinesiology, one of the deeper techniques with it, to help a person with COVID-19. We're going to share that with you in just a couple minutes too.
Right, and again, we can't promise. Well, we can't promise. You never know what's going to happen with anything. It doesn't always work 100% of the time, as nothing does, but it works. It's very effective most of the time.
Right. So if you're thinking about taking this little online course, it's relatively little, 36 hours, takes people maybe 4 to 12 weeks, depending on how many hours a week you want to put into it. Do you study a book, and you can have it hard copy version or just the online, and there's audios and videos, and we'll talk a little more about that too, what some of those materials. And you log 20 hours of practice. You practice the techniques, some on yourself, but mostly on other people. And there's an open book written exam. You send it back in, and you get a telephone consultation with us, and we kind of go over your work, and which is valuable. It's a valuable little connection in itself as a completion too. And then you get a nice spiritual kinesiology practitioner certificate. So it's pretty straightforward. It's easy to follow, yet it is quite profound. Jane, you want to add anything to that?
No, I don't have anything to add.
Okay. So here's what the course includes. You get a guidebook on how to do the course, the steps, the paperwork. It's all there in a simple guidebook, easy to follow. You get the Getting Through to Your Soul book, which is our main book that we wrote. You can get a hard copy, but you'll get an online version. There's 6 how-to audios, which are great for self-healing on these getting through techniques to go deeper into connecting with your soul and healing. There's 13 how-to videos with commentaries. These are new. We just updated them, and the commentaries are very precise. So not only are these techniques profound, you're getting the little details. You see the difference between making you be able to just, I kind of get how to do it, I can do it, and becoming very good at it is the details. And people who are very experienced with it, which obviously would be Jane and myself who actually developed the techniques too, can give you these little nuances that you may not recognize that can make a big difference in your results. So those commentaries are extremely valuable. After you take a second course, we have a couple home study courses. You can get a free listing on our IHP site for your services as well.
That's the International Association of Holistic Practitioners.
Right. Okay. Anything you wanted to add to that, Jane?
Nope.
That's what you get. Okay, this is, we kind of highlight this because I mentioned the videos, and you might want to know what all these processes are. And there are a lot of checklists too, and some of the videos include the checklists. So you muscle test these checklists, like these areas. They may be categories, they may be archetypes, or different lists for different things. They're very versatile. And you do that with muscle testing, although you can use the list even without muscle testing. If for some reason you don't want to do muscle testing, or it's not your thing, the lists in themselves are valuable as indicators, as guides. Just having those checklists is extremely valuable. So here are the 13 updated videos with the commentaries. We do one on soul centering, how to center with your soul. We're doing this with a client in a demo and commentaries. Then the basic reframing and anchoring, which we're going to demo again here in the webinar in a few minutes. How to do muscle testing, the many ways to do it. There's a video on that. The current lesson checklist is another one where it's kind of related to your chakras, if you know what that is, but it's an easy to follow checklist where you check where there's a weakness. It might be in your feelings, in your sense of power, in your expression, or there's different things. And wherever there's a weakness, that can be an area that you can then do the reframing and anchoring. Then it's a way of assessing to know what to do. So some people say, well, what's going on? I know there's a problem. I don't know what it is. These checklists can shortcut the process.
Yeah, can I say something about the?
Yeah, go for it.
And that's one that is, you can use it with anything to identify precisely what's happening. Because a lot of times with healing, what we've discovered and found along with many other people, is that things might not clear, like issues might not clear if a person doesn't have a good enough understanding of what's actually occurring. And in cases, as I mentioned earlier, where you can't figure out what's occurring because it's all unconscious, you can use the checklist to receive more information. And it just triggers, the idea is to trigger awareness, like, oh, now I get it. And it really is wonderful. I just love that one. I use it a lot personally.
Right. Very practical. And then there's a process with the polarities, which Jean referred to earlier, like the masculine, feminine, these balances that are going on often unconsciously, or imbalances, spiritual, earthly, inner, outer, body, mind, others. So that's handy, useful. There's an integration meeting and an integration process, or two different ways of the different parts or sub-personalities, and how reframing and anchoring with the soul can help that. And then the illumination process, the 7 levels of healing. And the demo, which I'm going to play you just a little intro to it, a little live video here in a moment, was quite remarkable. Jane, you want to kind of just tell what occurred there when you did the 7 levels of healing with Geraldine?
I can just a little bit. To be clear, the 7 levels of healing actually goes through 7 levels of the energy field. So it goes physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and it goes on into other spiritual levels of it, and brings awareness to what's happening. And this is to have that deeper sense of it. And so I had scheduled to do a session with the 7 levels of healing with Gerald Ann, the person you can see there with me in the picture. And at the time we thought she had the flu. I'm guessing this was probably in February. And so it was a really bad case of the flu. When you'll see she was very ill. And the change in actually what happened before and after the process was pretty dramatic. And then shortly after, this is another thing, is that things don't necessarily clear like immediately, especially physical issues. So after that, she had been very, very ill for many days before that. And then after that, she started feeling much, much better the next day. And then it just pretty much cleared up really quickly after that, which she attributed, at least in part, to this process. So and then it was actually later we found out she didn't know she had the coronavirus. She knew who she got it from. She got it from her husband. Her husband got it from a friend of his. And then his friend found out that he actually had the coronavirus. So it was tracked back. And wasn't surprising, actually, once you know a little bit about the coronavirus and you see her, it actually makes perfect sense. I just didn't have any sense of it at the time. Right. And neither did she.
Yeah, this is a remarkable healing, and the whole full demo is part of the videos. I'm going to play you just sort of a live video here of what happened with Geraldine, just to show you a few seconds of it here.
I kind of feel like, okay, it's gonna, I am gonna live.
Right.
I have to tell you, last night I didn't wanna. I mean, right. It was like, I was just so sick.
Right.
So that's just a glimpse of it. And that full excerpted video is on the description page of this course, the Spiritual Kinesiology Online course. And the full healing video is in the course itself. Jane, did you want to start going into the other videos that are shown?
Sure. There's the reality shift with reframing and anchoring, which is the healing technique, and that's something that we use a lot. Also, it's a way to maybe a shortcut on the 7 levels of healing, and it draws on imagery. We use imagery a lot because images are like holograms. They're like little realities in themselves, and as the reality shifts, the image shifts, and it's really fascinating. And I think illuminating both for the client and for us when we're working with people to kind of get a sense, because we understand imagery, we can get a sense of actually what's happening and how it's changing. There's another one called the heart focus. And that's a really valuable one because, as I suggested, you connect with your soul's truth through your heart. And there can be blocks in the heart that would make it not quite so clear. It's like fuzzy transmission or something. So the heart focus helps to identify things like that when they're happening. It's another use of imagery. Group archetypes, which is actually, when you're talking about relationships, you're talking about group archetypes, how we relate to other individuals, like maybe how we relate to each other. And a good example is two single people who live together and they get along really well living together. They get married and then everything starts to fall apart because being married is a different archetype than being single. So a person who feels great in a relationship when they're single may start to feel trapped when they're married because of that's the way they relate to that archetype. So it's fascinating. And then societal archetypes, really the archetypes, really the patterns that form our society, the systems. Like, well, a good example is the healthcare system or the educational system. Any of the systems, if you look at them right now, could use a transformation. So when we explore societal archetypes, we explore both the way that we relate to them and also how they can shift in ways that would be more conducive to creating a more loving and harmonious world. So that's really deep. But just as an example, since it might seem kind of vague, a person who's maybe afraid of the IRS or the police, that's an archetypal kind of an issue. And so when we have those kinds of things going on, we need to clear the issue within ourselves. The other one, the Transcendence Checklist, for how do you transcend really the limitations of our reality. So there are all kinds of checklists and different techniques that you can use with spiritual kinesiology. It's, as you can see, this is not just a little fluffy system. This is this is a serious healing system.
I just want to make a further note on the archetypes, those patterns and images that have been shaped throughout history that influence us often unconsciously. There are imbalances and problems, say, with the IRS or institutions, the military, the government, etc., externally. And that's a problem externally. But what we're talking about is getting an internal balance and centeredness about it. So that's what you're clearing and healing and balancing in the archetypes. Just that might clarify a little bit.
Right. And it is, well, as an example, I know a man who he had problems with the IRS over many, many years, and he had a lot of fear of the IRS. Well, I think that the first thing that you want to look at is how you clear your fear so that you're in balance, because often once you bring the archetype back into balance, the external event shifts. Our external lives are a reflection of our internal lives. So if you clear an issue, then for him, for instance, if he cleared it, maybe the whole situation with the IRS would dissolve and it would be gone. which happens many times. Once we clear something, then it's like, oh, well, now I don't have, now it doesn't happen anymore. It's really, it's amazing how that can change.
Right. So also, besides all the multimedia, the books, the videos, the audios, checklists, and so forth, we have some valuable bonuses you get with the course. There's a kinesiology quick start kit in case you want to go further in this, how to do kinesiology. Would give you extra material there. There's a special coaching wheel called the Levels of Care. We really like Wallace Wattles' lesser known work called The Science of Being Great. That's a very valuable awareness book, a beautiful book.
And it's really about valuing yourself as a spiritual being. Because it's also our growth, the transformation that we experience in our growth is a transformation of our perspective on who we are. And if we consider ourselves to be limited physical beings, we have much less potential than we have when we realize, tapping into our greatness, as Wallace Wattles would say, that we're magnificent spiritual beings. And we all have uniquely wonderful gifts to offer, that we're all here, we're special. Right.
And one more bonus here is a little video with a tip sheet about best learning practices. Some people are really good learners, know how to learn how to read and take notes and all the details, and this will just be a reviewer. But for some people, this would be extremely useful to get this information about how to be a good learner. So that's there in case you want it in the video and tip sheet, easy to access. Okay.
Yeah, so I would love to do the demo. Are we going to do the demo
let's
now?
do the demo. And that takes us to the demo of reframing and anchoring. You get to see a live version. We'll see what happens. Here we go.
Yeah. And
fortunately, we have. Yeah, go ahead.
You never know what's going to happen. So we're going to find out what's going to happen.
And we have Ivy here, who's actually one of our coaching and healing students who to do the demo on the reframing and anchoring. Ivy?
Good, and thanks for volunteering. Can you tell us, I know that you've been focusing on an issue that you'd like to address with the reframing and anchoring. Can you describe it to me or us?
Yes, I've been having a little bit of fear, I guess, this COVID thing. She hasn't left her apartment for about, I don't know, 5-6 months. And she doesn't live very, very far away from me. And I do her laundry and I do her groceries and I go in and out with the mask and she cleans up after I leave. I'm not there more than 10 minutes. But my worry is she's 81 years old and with this COVID thing, I feel like it's depriving her of activities, of time to do things that she enjoys and things like that.
Mm-hmm. So
I worry.
The concern that you have is the fear and worry, right? You're saying
yes.
That you're afraid. So what, you're afraid that she's being deprived? Is that the way you would describe it, or afraid? What are you afraid of?
Well, I'm afraid that her age, she's 81 years old. And I feel that this COVID, pandemic or whatever is keeping her in her home. She's always been very active. She loves to visit her grandchildren. She still drives. She hasn't driven in 6 months. So it's just a little concern about her, being deprived of what she likes to do. I mean, she does read and things like that, and she loves her Kindle that I gave to her a few years ago. But I feel like she is just home all day long, every day for so many months already. Mm-hmm. And my worry is, that I hear about all these people getting sick or passing away from whatever, a heart attack or whatnot.
I lost your sound there from it.
No, that I feel, I'm concerned that that she's not spending time with the family. We like to do family gatherings. She would always come over for weekends and stay with us. She has her own room.
Mm-hmm. So I'm still kind of trying to understand.
None of that has happened because of this.
Right. I'm still trying to understand. I mean, I understand the situation, but what is it exactly? You're afraid?
I'm afraid that her time is being cut short.
Afraid her life is being cut short, you mean?
Yeah. It's like she's not doing the fun things that she loves to do, that she likes, that she enjoys. And then time is just passing and we don't even know when this thing is going to end. And it's just not knowing.
Okay. So how strong is the fear if you were to measure it between 1 and 10?
The fear, I would say it's about a 7.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And when you feel that fear, is there any place in particular where you feel it in your body?
Yeah, I feel it in my stomach.
Mm-hmm. And what do you feel in your stomach?
A knot.
Mm-hmm. So I'm assuming that would be tightness?
A tightness.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so how strong is that tightness?
That's about an 8 or a 9.
Mm-hmm. Okay, 8 or 9. And so what I'm doing for people just to understand is I wanted to understand pretty precisely as much as possible what the problem is, and then I'm measuring it, so we'll measure it before and after. So anything else about it you'd like to say, Ivy, before we do the process?
I also feel sad.
Mm-hmm. Sad about?
That she's being deprived of her time, that she's so active and she's had to lay low, at home and not do anything outside of her apartment.
Okay, and so how strong is the sadness from 1 to 10?
That's a 10.
Okay. So where do you feel the sadness? Just out of curiosity.
My heart.
In the heart, yeah. And what do you feel there?
It's just it's like an agony or something like that. I feel it's just something that I can't shake off.
Okay, and how strong is the agony?
It's like a 9 or a 10.
Okay. So do you feel like you're ready to do the reframing and anchoring?
Yes.
Okay, and for people who are watching, Ivy already knows how to make that connection, that spiritual connection that we're going to make. And would you like to maybe describe, Ivy, a little bit to us about how you do that? Just a brief overview.
The connection.
How you make that spiritual connection for healing.
That spiritual, I go to my happy place, and I have that. I go up to the mountaintop. Depending on the day, I love the beach too. At sunset, and I just imagine myself there, and I turn on all my senses, and I feel the breeze, and I smell the ocean water.
Wonderful. Okay.
Like that.
Yeah. Good. Thanks. That's just so people have a sense when we do it of what it is you're doing. We can talk just a tiny bit about it as you go through it. For now, why don't you again focus on the fear, being afraid that her life is being cut short and sad about her being deprived. Can you feel that?
Yes, I do.
And as you do that, actually, I guess one way of doing it that people can see is can you put your right hand on your left shoulder?
Yes.
Is that what I'm doing? Yes. And just continue to focus on that. And what we're doing is just anchoring it. Okay, just let that go for a moment. And now imagine you can rise above the situation and go to that happy place. And maybe you can describe a little what you're experiencing as you go there so people can get a sense of it. And we'll be anchoring that in a moment.
Yes, I see orange skies around the sun. The sun, I could see it in the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
It's soft waves coming in, and I'm right at the edge, right before the water touches me. And it's just a little breezy and warm. And I hear seagulls.
Wonderful. And what that is a state of connectedness. So she's connecting with nature, and that state of connectedness is a spiritual state. So just breathe in more of that beautiful energy, Ivy, and take your left hand and anchor that on your right shoulder. Is that different from the one you did before?
Yes, you said the right before, and now it's the left.
Okay. And just hold that for a moment. And then release it. And then just let your mind relax for a moment and put both hands on both places at one time. You're actually hugging yourself at the same time, which is kind of nice. But what we're doing is we're accessing both of those energies at the same time. And then release the left one, the one that you don't want anymore, the one you want to leave behind. And then release the right one. And take a couple nice breaths and let me know what you're noticing now when you focus on your mother's situation.
I'm getting a message.
Okay.
And it's actually from my mom. She's saying, honey, don't worry, I've got this. She's a strong woman. And she's keeping herself busy, and I think that everything is going to be okay.
Wonderful. So from that perspective, then, if you focus again on that sadness about her being deprived, which was a 10 in intensity, what do you notice now?
On the sadness?
How is there any sadness left?
I still feel sad, but it's not as strong.
How strong is it on a scale of 1 to 10?
I would say it's about a 4.
So it went from a 10 to a 4, which is a big shift. And that agony that you felt in your heart, which was a 9 or a 10?
That has gone down.
And what would you rate that as?
I would say it's like about a 2 or 3.
Okay. Wonderful. And being afraid her life is being cut short, it was a 7?
Yeah. That's about a 3.
Okay, good. And then that tightness, that knot in your stomach, you said was an 8 or a 9? And what do you notice there now?
Which one? I'm sorry?
The tightness, that knot in your stomach, it was an 8 or a 9?
The tightness. Okay. That one is it has loosened up. That one is more like a 5.
Great. So that was a nice shift, and what we're looking for is when we're doing this, I think Philip mentioned before, you can do it in rounds. In other words, you can repeat it. It's like peeling an onion. There might be more than one round, but what she experienced there was a good shift. So would you like to do another round?
Yes.
Okay. So just focus now on the remaining the remaining sadness and fear. And you can, when you bring that up, you can just again anchor that on your left shoulder so people can see where you're anchoring. Okay, and then you can release that and go back to your happy place. And describe, you know, as you're going there, what you're noticing as you're going to your happy place.
It's a warm day. It's beautiful out. The water's clear,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's sunset.
Mm-hmm.
And the sun is bright orange, yellow.
Mm-hmm. And how does that feel being there?
And it feels great.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So you can just breathe in more of that energy and then put your right hand on your right shoulder. We'll anchor that. And just keep breathing in that wonderful air there.
I think that one, it was this one, the good air. The good,
right.
the happy place.
You have to get the right one. The correct one. Yeah. Okay, and you can release that and then just let your mind relax and put both hands on both places at one time. And then release the left one, the one that you want to let go of. And then release the right one. And again, just notice when you go back to focusing on your mother and her situation, what comes to you now.
She's making the most of the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And she's keeping in contact with all the family on both her side and my dad's side. And
Mm-hmm.
and she's doing what she does, and she wakes up early and says, "Hello, family. How's everybody doing?" And everybody starts answering how they're doing. And we've kept in touch, and she's going to continue doing that.
Mm-hmm. And how is she feeling about all of that?
And she feels good about that connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel good that she
Mm-hmm.
feels connected.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's not in person, it's the best that we have right now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So how do you feel? Are there any other messages for you from this perspective?
That she's going to be fine.
Mm-hmm.
She has, she's very alert, and she's very happy,
Mm-hmm.
and that she's gonna be okay,
Mm-hmm.
and that we're gonna get over this.
Mm-hmm. Right. So if when you focus on seeing her there being alert and happy, how does that make you feel?
Makes me feel good.
Mm-hmm. So does that feel like it's pretty much cleared then? Is there anything left?
Well, I see the vision of me going by her apartment now, and I don't get to hug her or kiss her, so I'm feeling that.
Mm-hmm.
And she has beautiful green eyes, and I know that she cry, she feels sad that she can't hug me or kiss me.
Mm-hmm.
And
well,
I feel
and there
sad
is,
too.
yeah, and there is obviously within the situation we can connect with, there are things about it that are not pleasant, but is it something that needs to affect you? And
No.
I mean, you have a choice also of what, if you focus on seeing her feeling happy and feeling connected with her family, then that's a choice you can make too.
Another thing that I keep reminding me, and I'm getting that message, is the alternative is even worse. So this is good. I have my mom, and she's doing great. I talk to her 4, 5, 6 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's wonderful. And a lot of people don't have that. So
Right.
I should be grateful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and gratitude is a quality of the soul too.
Yes.
How does that feel when you focus on the gratitude?
I feel really good.
Mm-hmm.
I feel the love. I feel a lot of love.
Mm-hmm. Right. Wonderful. So does that feel complete then?
Yes, it does.
Wonderful. Okay. Thank you very much, Ivy. And it really is. I think it is. Obviously, it's not a pleasant situation for anybody in any way. And I think so. If we can just clear the blocks and then have an intention in our focus going forward and recognizing really that her mother's doing fine from what she's gathering. That's a blessing, something to be grateful for.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Great. That's a great demo. Yeah, wonderful. And that I think relates to a lot of people with family members, and especially just in any time of separation, particularly the time we're going through now, and how to deal with that. And a lot of emotions come up, and thanks for sharing that,
Mm-hmm.
Evie. That was great. And just to maybe a quick commentary here on that is, the soul is that higher awareness that we all have. It's usually a silent partner, and as you awaken it through processes like spiritual kinesiology and other things in your self-development, it starts to have more of a voice and speak to you. And I know you may or may not get a message or messages like Evie did, but nonetheless, it still is very healing, the process and the energy, and it does communicate to your body, to your sensations, as we saw, to your thoughts and feelings, and it shifts them, this higher awareness, and you see things sort of through this greater awareness, this greater inclusiveness, this bigger picture.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Yeah, it can change everything.
Right. And if anyone, I know there's a few people on the call who have taken or are taking our coaching healing course who've been trained already in the spiritual kinesiology. If they want to share anything on how it's helped them, that would be great. Just anyone want to mention something, how they've noticed some of the positive benefits, you can just unmute yourself. Anyone who would like to share and some of the things you've experienced with the spiritual kinesiology. Yvonne, go ahead.
Yeah, I've seen what I would term as miracles with the things that have happened, with the processes that we've been taught. And it never ceases to amaze me.
Right. Thanks. Yeah. And that's what we said at the beginning, where it seems like almost a sleight of hand, like, is this really, I mean, she's just putting her hand on different places on her body. What is it, and by the way, there was a good question by, I think it was Erica, about, can you do this virtually? Well, we're doing it virtually now, so you can see that it does work. Yeah. So that's great. Thanks, Yvonne. And now when you sort of see these testimonials, they make maybe a little more sense. They're not just things that people are kind of saying. Here's another one. A person who took our spiritual kinesiology online course, the course we're describing today. The techniques have helped me to witness the profound and instant healing available to all of us by connecting with our soul. I appreciate how SK gives people an embodied experience. You feel it in your body. Nice way to do it. Jane, do you want to add anything here?
No, I just, I always say no and then I say something. I just continue to be amazed at what we can do with it.
Right.
And I guess another thing I would say about just the spiritual journey in general, with the number of years of experience that we have, I still find deeper areas to explore. It's one of those things where it never becomes boring. Right. I used to be an architect. Philip was a teacher earlier in our lives, and and we really burned out. This is something, it just, if anything, it becomes more and more interesting over the years. So it's something, if you explore it, that it has so much depth to it.
Right, and you can add it to EFT or other modalities. And when a person, even doing EFT, if you have a good results, if you add the soul awareness to it, it really seems to go deeper and be more lasting as well.
Mm-hmm. Right, I agree.
Well, this just about brings us to the conclusion of this introduction overview of our spiritual kinesiology, a process we developed from NLP in the early 1990s out of hypnokinesiology, and it's just worked really well. And it's not only a process versatile for personal and professional use, it's part of your spiritual evolution, connecting with your soul and the spiritual stages you go through. And we have a link here, URL, tinyurl.com/SK course. If you're not already on the page, make sure you see that video of Geraldine, the overview of her getting the healing on the COVID-19. And there's a lot of other details. And it's a very affordable training that you can use now and for a lifetime. So anyways, it's been great being with you. And we look forward to connecting with some of you down the road, and hopefully some of you will go further with spiritual kinesiology. I think you'll be very glad you did.
Philip, as I know, someone just asked about the cost, which I think you can find the cost on the webpage that Philip just sent you to.
Yeah, and it's a very affordable. Just go to the webpage where you can just online. It's easy to do, and then you get it instantly. So it's an online course. So as soon as you enroll, immediately you get the link, and you can start the course that day if you want it. And in case you're not ready to do it, you have 2 years to complete it. So if you say, hey, I want to do it, but I'm not quite ready because of my schedule, get it today, and then you'll have it. And then, when you're ready to start it, just start it whenever, and you go at your own rate, as we said.
Right.
So until next time, this has been Philip Montrose and my wonderful wife and partner, Jane, wishing you well on your journey, which might include spiritual kinesiology. It will certainly include your soul, and this will probably accelerate your development if you decide to go this way, choose this course. Until next time.